All right, so I just found out that my fellow Gen Zers are pretty much okay. So if you guys are watching this, blink twice if you're okay, if that's gonna make a difference. But yeah, man, I mean, it blows my mind, okay, because our generation has, witnessed the rise of, entertainment, um, seeing how the housing market crashed. We were pretty young, to really conceptualize what happened in that time frame. But as we look back and now we're moving forward and we see how much Gen Z is really struggling with like the job market. Okay, I'm gonna be blunt. Okay, I tried to go to school, but I think my story should inspire the next generation before us. You know what I'm saying? Like Gen X or Gen Alpha, whatever they are, right? It just blows my mind because when I graduated high school, okay, just a little backstory about me. I actually started drop shipping when I was like 17, right? And this was probably sophomore year of high school. Everybody thought I was crazy, but I'm pretty sure I was the only one in my grade that was pursuing an entrepreneurial thing, like by myself, like completely by myself. And it was all based on one video that I found online on YouTube. And I found success, but people didn't really believe me. People didn't understand what I was doing. And, that kind of led me to, kind of birth my entrepreneurial fire, inside me. I really wanted to be my own boss. And as I started searching more online about how I can, grow my wealth, I started getting obsessed about building credit, how to buy a house, how to qualify for a house. And that kind of led me into my journey of working a full-time job right outside of high school. And I actually give credit to my mom because I wanted to pursue drop shipping full time. But coming from, my family, my cultural background, unfortunately, my parents weren't very well educated in terms of, you know, the web and business overall, which, is kind of sad because I come to think about it and I bet there's a lot of other people, in my position that have probably suffered the same cards, you know what I'm saying? Um, but it is what it is, okay? And for that reason, they didn't really understand what I was doing, what I was envisioning. And if I really had that support, I truly believe I would have made millions of dollars, at that peak of drop shipping from 2017 to 2020. I had winning products, I had massive Instagram pages. I just didn't have the funding or the mentor, I didn't know how to do the taxes thing. I did it myself, I figured it out, but I didn't have any backbone to rely on. Like, it was literally just me doing it and figuring it out. And I know that's very scary for a lot of people. Like, they don't want to pursue something because they're scared they're gonna fail, they're not gonna do it right, you know. But that pretty much led me to getting a full-time job. And I did. I started a full-time job. I was working at a factory. And, my hard work and my ethic, I was a hard worker. And I didn't deal with no BS, right? Like, I didn't complain. I just did my job, but I had my vision, my mindset locked in on what I wanted, right? Because in high school, going back to how I got obsessed with building credit, learning how to buy a house, all my buddies, we all grew up in a smaller town that, is closer to like bigger cities. And I told myself, like, damn, if I can buy a house and then rent it to my buddies, we could have a huge college phase house, what I called it back then. And sure as shit, I manifested it. I did it, you know. I worked 2 years and I managed to save 20K, right? From 18 to 20, I had a perfect credit score. I had 20K in savings. I had 2 years of work history. Now you combine those three, literally all you need to go get a house. But I didn't get any house, okay? I got a multifamily. I got a triplex, okay? And when you do this, oh, the lenders, they freaking love it. Not only do you get the benefits of an FHA, which is a first-time homebuyer loan, an assistance that is backed by the Fannie Mae, which is the federal government, okay? So it's essentially a guarantee, right? Not a guarantee, but hey, if you default, the federal government has got your back. So the lenders, they're like, okay, that alleviates the risks. So we want to give you a mortgage note so you can go and buy the house. But the crazy thing is, the finance class that I took in high school did not teach me anything about this strategy. There was no strategy. They taught us how to write a checkbook. Don't get me wrong, that's cool. But if you can prolong an entire quarter of a class based on writing checks, it's pretty ridiculous, I think it's crazy if you tell me. It's absurd. I was pissed. Anyways, I got the house, right? It had its issues, a lot of issues actually, and issues that popped up right before we closed on the property. But anyways, I still ended up, going forward with it. And it was a triplex, which means 3 units, right? So we have upstairs, middle, and the basement. And I ended up living in one of the units for half a decade, man. Half a decade, my early 20s. I already had experience and so much knowledge, I was just so driven. I wanted to be a real estate agent, I studied it, but ended up not pursuing that pursuit, for other reasons. But yeah, it's crazy because when I moved up to the college town that I was referring to earlier, I only rented a place for like 3-4 months. And then I was in the process of, buying my house. I enrolled into community college, and I was also working a full-time job, and the full-time job had a rotating shift schedule. So we would work 12-hour days, X amount of days, and then we would switch to nights. And man, that destroyed me, I couldn't keep up with the coursework. Maybe if I would have had a better system in place, and I would have truly cared for it, I think I would have, finished it. And looking back, I wish I would have, I wish I would have just stuck it through, even if I was falling behind. I think I could have done it. But at the same time, I always had the mindset that I want to be my own boss. I never deep down in my soul believed that college would give me the freedom of my dreams. You know what I'm saying? And I've been very fortunate enough by God to pursue my dreams, and I'm still pursuing them. I'm still not where I want to be, but I think considering, my group of people, the Gen Z, of the suffering and the anxiety and financial pressures in the housing market, it blows my mind because, all this AI is coming out, and I do love AI, because I'm a very creative person, and now that I can literally create anything I think of, with some time and iteration, I can birth it, Don't get me wrong, there's its downsides, and as far as energy consumption, it's a whole different debate, and I know certain things are in my control. You can support things or you cannot, that's cool. But I personally do use it, and I know a lot of people, especially some people that I used to know, they were going for certain degrees that are going to be obsolete, if AI continues its trajectory the way it's growing. I mean, these jobs won't even matter, man. So I just can't believe that they didn't teach us this in school, man. At the same time, I do believe it. The school system has always been an indoctrinate to create workers, right? And it was very obvious to me, even in high school, I always said I hated school. I never hated school, but I hated school. I know you'll understand what I'm saying. But it just blows my mind, dude, that they didn't teach us anything. Everything that I have self-taught myself, every failure, every lesson, every setback that I've learned on my own journey as a Gen Z, bro, has been through my own trial and error, but there's been no support. You know, my parents didn't know how to do it. The school didn't fucking teach us how to do it. I mean, it's crazy, man. But if you guys are interested in learning what I did and how to do it, because if you're living at home, bro, get a job, okay? Work 2 years, 2 years of work history, get your credit score to like 650 and above, okay? 650 and above, contact an agent and find a good lender and go get yourself a rental property, even if it's, you know, farther away from where you live, you know, with your parents. Get out of your comfort zone, bro. Trust me, if you guys can get into a rental property, you only have to live in it for a year, if I'm correct. For FHA, the Federal Housing Administration backed loans, requires you to live in the property 1 year, and then after that you can rent out all the 3 units. So you're buying a rental property, you're gonna get a chance to live essentially rent-free. You're gonna have a tax-deductible house that you can depreciate over 27 and a half years. You hear what I'm saying? You literally get a tax write-off, you're gonna get extra income, you're gonna build wealth with the appreciating asset. Banks love real estate, so if you wanna go start a different business, you got it on your sheet. I really, really wish they would have taught us this in school. And I've made different iterations of this video in the past, but I've never explained it in this aspect. So I truly encourage, you know, the generations before us and even my generation to not lose hope, okay? There is a way, and it's gonna require work. You know, I know you guys don't like to work. I'm just kidding. I know some people do, you know. But it's all about working smart, man, and having faith. But if you guys want my ebook on how I did this with my rental property, I'm gonna leave a link below. You guys can literally get it for free, or you guys can pay however much you want to pay me for it. But I'm gonna leave it in the link below. But yeah, just comment your questions, man, and let me know what else you guys want me to talk about.